We're here today in the little shack with Gary Dassing of Mentallo and the Fixer. And we're here to talk a little bit about how Gary got into what he does, his music, why he started it, what he thinks about what's going on in the music scene today. So, just to start off, Gary, what were some of your first experiences with music? What made you decide you wanted to be a musician?
I think it was probably since I was a kid, just being in my sister's room, seeing all the pictures on her wall, constantly playing music on her stereo. This is during the 70s. And just being fascinated by the music she'd play me at the time. There was a lot of prog rock and rock, and then, early new wave and punk. So being somebody who was around by all these pictures on her wall, just covered wall to wall, seeing, like the posters that come in Dark Side of the Moon LP, they're the pyramids and stuff, just stuff like that. As a kid, you're going, wow, this is like being in a carnival. It's in, it's in the door next door, 2 doors down, So that's initially what started everything, was just a fascination. I remember my sister playing the beginning of Rush 2112. Just the whole keyboard part, it sounds spacey going off. And as a little kid, I think that came out in 76. I must have been 5 or 6 at the time, hearing that, playing full blast, sitting on her bed going, wow, that sounds cool. Play it again, play it again, play it again,
Were synthesizers really available in '76?
I'm sure they were, but you had to. They were costly and something you'd only run across in studios.
What were some of your first synthesizers?
Well, I think the first two was a Juno 6 and a sequential circuits multi-track.
Mm-hmm.
And we got the Tom Drum Machine, and that must have been in 83, 82 or 83.
And when you say, obviously this is you and Dwayne were still
right,
because when the group got together, and so the group has gone through changes, right? It wasn't always Mentallo and the Fixer. It was
there's just been so many incarnations along the way with things Dwayne and I have done from the very beginning. There was Benestrophe, and then there's a lot of pre-Benestrophe stuff. Pretty much.
How many albums did you end up publishing as Mentallo and the Fixer?
God, I don't know.
There was at least
10.
At least 10.
At least 10. So 10 or 12, something like that.
Mostly through the 90s.
Right.
Mostly through the 90s, I recall. What would you consider your first measure of success as a band?
I guess getting that first royalty check and being able to spend it all on equipment, because we were, equipment addicts at the time. It's what our money was going to, was simply equipment. We wanted to build our own Starship Enterprise, pretty much. That's what it was, I guess that was or it wasn't even that. It was actually probably getting my first CD, No Rest for the Wicked, in my hand, and the vinyl copy going, wow, yeah, this is cool. I'm just some kid in Texas.
So speaking of, okay, so you were a kid in Texas, so what was the scene like back then?
I think it was cool. It was underground, but it was cool.
So Texas, San Antonio, Texas.
Cool.
Totally
cool.
Is not a synthesizer town,
No, but I think that's what, that's where the people got singled out. Posers from the real people.
Very much a rock town, I remember.
Very much a rock town, yeah. Very much on heavy metal. But, the underground new wavers and, everybody back then, from punks to homosexuals, hung out together because there were no divisions. You had to hang out together.
Mm-hmm.
as one big clique to save each other because you're always getting publicly ridiculed. Things like that don't happen today. And if they do, compared to somebody calling, today's terms, it's somebody calling you a name in public. That was pretty common back then compared to an ass beating back then.
Right. So that was kind of my next question. How do you think the scene has really changed from then to now?
People don't even know who forefathered the music or anything like that. It's all about image. Back then, you could look like a preppy, show up to a club. If you were into Cabaret Voltaire, you were into Cabaret Voltaire. It didn't matter how you looked. You know, you could be some. It just didn't matter back then. Image was not a thing. It was about the music and being underground. You know, it's not like that anymore. Everything has cornered itself into a niche. You know, and I mean, you can't stop progress. You know, it's not underground anymore. I mean, by God, the internet destroyed that and more. You know, I mean, but I mean, hey, those were the glory days. You know.
So, do you think that? So, talking about the internet, right? So, does that? How do you feel about distribution and the way that it was done when you first started, and then kind of towards the middle of your career, as opposed to now? You know.
Well, you just roll with the punches. You know, I'm just thankful I got to release one CD. I mean, I have a label releasing box sets of mine, and it's funny because I see people nagging about it on the internet, you know? I'm not doing it for money. I'm doing it for my own self-ego.
Right.
You know, I can sit back and go, wow, I've got my whole life dictionary here in music. It's like a photo album. Do you have that? And I didn't have to pay for a thing, and it looks professional. Somebody said once a money grab. What money? Are you serious? Come on, get real.
So the internet has destroyed making money off of making music.
I guess it has to a great degree, but you shouldn't do it for the money. You should do it simply for the love of it. What underground musician really strived to break into the pop world? Did they really think they were going to eke a living out of it? If you were able to buy a keyboard or two out of it, then you should be happy. And if not, you could spend it on getting your electric state on, you know?
Well, you know, and there are a lot of bands, you'll see a lot of bands that are coming around and doing re-release tours or, you know, come back together tours or, you know, and then there's a lot of bands who are out there who probably shouldn't have had more than 1 or 2 tours and who are on their 10th or 15th tour. Is that kind of what you're talking about? These are these the kind of people who are looking to make an image or make some kind of
I know. By God, look at the people I'm hanging out with. Now, that's industrial.